You're listening to a production of the National Media Archive. To learn more or volunteer, go to nationalmediaarchive.com.
Let me tell you a story, one that starts not in Silicon Valley, but in the heart of personal loss. Doug Evans, Juicero's founder, had a family history marked by cancer, heart disease, diabetes, even strokes. Imagine being in your 30s and suddenly realizing your genetics are a ticking clock. What would you do? Evans chose to radically change his lifestyle, embracing raw veganism. Maybe you've heard of cold-pressed juice? That's where he found Hoppe process that removes fiber but keeps nutrients intact. Two technical terms for you. Phytochemicals, those are plant compounds with health benefits, and oxidation, which is what happens when juice loses nutrients from exposure to air. Evans wanted to lock in the good stuff. But as we'll see, this personal quest would snowball into an ambitious business idea. After discovering cold-pressed juice, Evans took action. He started Organic Avenue, New York's first cold-pressed juice shop. Sounds pretty niche, right? But in 2002, this was a revolution. Fast forward a decade. Competition flooded the market. The business sold, faded, and Evans was left craving that same quality juice. Here's the conflict: wanted fresh juice at home, but hated cleaning traditional juicers. Ever tried scrubbing pulp out of blades? That's friction, both literal and metaphorical. Enter the concept of user experience, or USA design term for how pleasant a product is to use. Evans's resolution? Reinvent the juicer entirely, making it as seamless as possible. Picture this: 200 days, 12 prototypes, and a dream that just wouldn't die. That's how Juicero was born, the so-called iMac of juicers. But wait, why 700? That's more than a lot of laptops. This is what engineers call a minimum viable product, or MVP, the most basic version that still works. But Evans believed innovation had to start somewhere. Think of Tesla's first Roadster. Expensive, rare, but proof of concept. The plan? Launch high, then scale down costs as technology improved. But here's the challenge. Could consumers see the value in a juicer that cost as much as a vacation? Now, here's where things get futuristic. Juicero wasn't just a juicer, it was a connected device. Each juice bag had a QR code, and the machine itself had Wi-Fi, making it part of the Internet of Things IoT for short. What's that mean? Imagine your fridge texting you when you're out of milk. Here, the QR code told the app where the produce came from, when it was packed, and even blocked expired bags from being pressed. It's a traceability system like a passport for your juice. But now you might be thinking, do I really need my juicer to talk to the internet? That's the paradox. Smart tech, but does it solve a real problem? Let's talk logistics. Juicero's raw, nutrient-rich juice bags had only an 8-day shelf life. That's perishability a nightmare for any supply chain manager. The company had to work directly with farmers, run their own distribution centers, and keep everything cold. The technical term here is just-in-time inventory, the practice of delivering products only as needed to reduce waste. But with produce, there's also cold chain management, meaning temperature must be controlled at every step. Imagine the pressure. One missed delivery, and your entire batch spoils. This complexity made scaling beyond California almost impossible. Here's a question. How do you convince investors to pour $120 million into a juicer company? The answer: sell a vision, not just a product. Juicero pitched itself as a tech platform, think hardware plus software, with data-driven insights. The buzzwords were everywhere. Predictive analytics, which means forecasting trends using data, and platform play, the idea that your device could be the start of a larger ecosystem. Investors like Google Ventures and Kleiner Perkins saw the potential for big data on food trends, traceable supply chains, even helping farmers plan crops. But the catch? The core value proposition was still juice. So, what happens when your 700 device barely sells? In 2017, Juicero dropped the price to 400. That's called price elasticity, the economic principle that as price goes down, demand should go up. But here's the twist. Even at 400, the juicer was still too expensive for most people. Now, you might ask, couldn't they just make it cheaper? Well, hardware costs like precision pressing mechanisms and embedded chips don't magically shrink overnight. And here's a lesson in product market fit. Just because a product is innovative doesn't mean people are willing to pay for it. Let's set the scene. April 19, 2017. Bloomberg posts a video showing that you can squeeze Juicero juice bags by hand. No 400 machine required. That's what's called a value proposition collapse. Suddenly, the core promise, our machine makes better juice, looked hollow. Viral videos are a classic example of information asymmetry flipping overnight. Suddenly, everyone knew the truth. Now, imagine being a customer who invested in the tech and learning you could have just used your hands. The backlash was instant. Trustone of the most important assets in business began to evaporate. Juicero's leadership scrambled to justify the device. CEO Jeff Dunn argued that Juicero offered more than just juice, food safety, thanks to remote disabling of contaminated bags, and consistency the juicer pressed with perfectly calibrated force. Here's a technical analogy. Think of a torque wrench ensuring every bolt is tightened just right. The company also highlighted supply chain data helping manage freshness and recalls. But let's be honest, if your main value is traceability and safety, does the average home user care? The resolution here is bittersweet. Some benefits just didn't resonate with customers' real pain points. By September 2017, Juicero was history. They'd burned through $120 million, built a complex supply chain, and had a product too expensive for the mass market. Let's break this down. Over-engineering when a product has more features than users need and lack of problem, solution fit when you solve a problem nobody really has. If you're an entrepreneur, here's the takeaway. Focus on the pain, not just the solution. Ask yourself, does your product offer unique value? Or is there a simpler, cheaper workaround? Because in Juicero's case, a pair of human hands was all it took to squeeze out the truth. So, what can we all learn from the Juicero saga? First, validate the problem before building the solution. Use customer discovery, interview real users, and don't fall in love with your prototype. Second, beware of feature creep, adding tech for tech's sake. Third, always ask, is there a simpler, more affordable way? Product, market fit, and value proposition aren't just buzzwords, they're survival skills. Now, if you're dreaming up the next big thing, remember, innovation means nothing if it's not anchored to real, everyday needs. Juicero's story isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a masterclass in what not to do.